In the game of life, it's all about the tale. Craft your story right, every ship will sail. From brick and mortar to dreams unveiled. In storytelling and selling, we'll never fail. Roads to success, open with the key. When you're pitching homes or a legacy, listen to the beat, let your mind be free. Marketing magic magnified by 3. Storytelling and selling, where dreams align. Words weave wonders, this stage is mine. Hustle and heart in every single line. For real estate agents and small biz sunshine. From blueprint visions to the grand reveal. In the art of the deal, let's keep it real. Crafting connections, oh the appeal. With every sold home, we spin that wheel. Dial up the charm, let your passion ignite. From the cityscape shimmer to the soft porch light. Say it with flair, make the moment bright. Cause in storytelling and selling, we aim for flight. Storytelling and selling, where dreams align. Words weave wonders, this stage is mine. Hustle and heart in every single line. For real estate agents and small biz sunshine.
Hey everybody, welcome to the show. Let me tell you about Marcus, a real estate agent who'd been in the game for about 5 years. On the surface, things seemed really solid. He had a decent number of listings, a respectable reputation, and even a few referrals coming in. But behind the scenes, Marcus was struggling. Every time he tried to take his business to the next level, doubt would creep in and he'd think, what if I can't handle more clients? What if I'm not cut out for this market? And let me tell you, it wasn't his sales strategy or his client list holding him back. And for months, he stayed in that space. He was playing small, afraid to go after bigger listings or implement new strategies because he didn't think he had what it took. But one day, instead of focusing on all the potential failures, Marcus asked himself, what if I'm actually great at this? What if I land that dream listing? And it turns out things changed when Marcus realized the most important sale he needed to make was to himself. How is it possible that you can be the most skilled, hardest worker on the team and still lose? What about in business? How is it possible that you can take all the classes, read all the sales books, listen to all of the audio and still be struggling with your sales? Well, there are several reasons, but the core and the biggest of these is that organ right between your ears. Today, we're talking mindset. Let's do it.
Come on in, storytelling, time to begin with RK3, getting down to biz. Real estate pros and small town wiz. Oh, we're telling tales, we're selling dreams, crafting your stories, cashing in on schemes. In the house of hustle where the jazz beats flow. Storytelling and selling, it's RK3 show.
Hey, my friends, welcome to the Storytellin and Sellin podcast. This is episode number 5, and I'm so glad that you're in the space. In case you haven't heard, the whole idea of the Storytellin and Sellin podcast is to support real estate professionals and small business owners in their quest to unlock their sales superpower. We believe that your superpower is rooted in storytelling. So become a better storyteller, become a better seller. It's all about the connection. When you connect, you're more likely to do business. And speaking of connection, we want to talk about our sponsor today. Our sponsor today is Toner. Toner mics provide the best solution for artists, creatives, podcasters, and business owners that are waiting to come out. So Toner allows you to own high-quality professional audio recording devices without pinching your wallet. They've created a perfect balance by designing products that provide you with superior sound quality. Toner. For more information, head on over to tonermic.com. That's TONORMIC.com. All right, let's jump into our segment, Relevant Revelations. I'm going to share a quick nugget or news item in the real estate, small business, tech, and storytelling space. So let's start with our first item. Ooh, life happens is driving sales. Ooh, what are we talking about? Well, according to RIS or RIS Media, in 2024, we're seeing more homeowners that are willing to sell, even if it means giving up their super low pandemic era mortgage rates. As life events like growing families or new job opportunities emerge, people are deciding to list their homes despite rates hovering around 6%. So real estate agents should be prepared or a boost in listings driven by these lifestyle changes. Let's jump to number 2. Ooh, yeah, small businesses are more focused on SEO. Local business owners are doubling down on local search engine optimization to capture nearby customers. So, with mobile searches like near me, I know that I do that. With mobile searches like near me growing, businesses are focusing on optimizing their Google My Business listings. So if you haven't done that yet, maybe worth looking into that. And that source is Forbes. In our technology area, guess what? Blockchain is a game changer. Blockchain for real estate transactions is emerging as a game changer in real estate, especially in streamlining transactions and increasing transparency. Buyers and sellers, they can securely store contracts, verify property ownership, and this is cutting transaction time significantly. And again, this is according to RIS Media. Now, for our last relevant revelation, stories cause people to spend more. Isn't that a good thing? A recent study revealed that consumers are willing to pay up to 5% more for products and services when they're emotionally engaged through storytelling. So for real estate agents, small business owners, sharing stories about the neighborhood or positive experiences of former owners with a home buyer can increase motivational connection or emotional connection that motivates buyers to spend or invest more. And that's from the Journal of Marketing. What are your thoughts about these relevant revelations? Do me a favor, leave a comment on the YouTube channel and let us know. You follow the podcast on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. I'll share the links in the show notes for this information. Lastly, I believe that storytelling is important and public speaking is super important. And that's one of the best ways to grow your business. So we're getting ready to pull together a powerhouse group that will walk together towards building a better business through public speaking. So if you want to learn more about that, head on over to story2salesmastermind.com. All right, let's jump on in with our guest today. Patrick Francey is the host of 2 podcasts, the award-winning Global Top 100 podcast, The Everyday Millionaire and The Everyday Millionaire Mindset Matters. He's a multiple business owner, including leading Canada's real estate investing education, research, and provider, the Real Estate Investment Network, or RAIN. He's a dynamic force in entrepreneurship, and he's here to talk a bit about one of the big things that we talked about in the beginning, that organ between your ears. Patrick, how you doing, my friend?
Robert, I'm fantastic, and I'm just looking forward to having this conversation with you. Loved your lead-in, by the way. It just opened up a whole bunch of thoughts in my brain about things we got to talk about.
Well, listen, let's jump on in because I love the whole idea of what you do in your business, not just the real estate investing part, but a lot of us start businesses and we do them for a while and we struggle as business owners. That's part of the process. And some of the reason that we struggle isn't because we don't have the resources, we don't have the skills to make business. It's this thing right here. So tell me a little bit, when you started your business, what really made you realize that, oh my gosh, this thing right here, this organ between my ears is the thing that I need to fix, and that's going to really affect my sales. Tell me a little bit about that start or that realization.
Well, I don't know that there was a specific fork in the road moment. I could probably connect one, but ultimately I started out as many entrepreneurs do. I would say probably most, and that is that I had this business and I was a technician working in the business, and
Yeah.
I was really good at what I did. But I had bought myself a job. The business was a retail business, which I still own to this day. By the way, it's celebrating its 40th year. But through that time, I happened to get to know different business owners and different people. And one day I was having a really stressful moment, and a client who'd become a friend, he came in the door. He's going, "Dude, you're all stressed out. What's going on?" And I go, "Oh, just all this going on." And he says, "Well, we should go golfing." And I said, "Oh yeah, like I have time to golf." And he looked at me and he said, Patrick, he said, one day when you realize that you need to work on your business instead of in your business, you will have time to go golfing. Now, that at the time was very profound, although many of us or most are familiar with that particular concept, work on your business, not in your business. It was really profound for me when he said that. And that really changed how I viewed the world. And all of a sudden, what I started doing was taking responsibility for, what do I want my business to be about? I wanted to support my life outside of it, not be my life. And those were kind of little sound bites and little moments in time that I had 30 plus years ago. And today I haven't even had a key to that business since 2005. And it continues to be an asset I hold, a business I own, not a business that I operate in. So short and sweet, a little bit of a high level view of that conversation, Robert.
Yeah. Yeah. So as you're sharing that, I'm saying 40 years in the business, dude, you're like 43. So how is that even possible? Wow. Yeah, that's awesome, man. So thank you for sharing that start. So as you connect with investors and real estate business owners, what would you say is the most common fear or idea that you have to help them? I'll use the word correct or adjust in order to get them moving towards success in their business.
Well, I don't know that there's a lot of things that are kind of common. There's a list of common things, but first and foremost, what I started to understand with many of the individuals that I own is that they are technicians in their business. They can't see beyond, how do I grow my business? How do I operationalize it? How do I attract clients? And ultimately, it is about you. So first off, you take responsibility for what your business is and who you are in your business. A long time ago, I learned from a really successful friend of mine that when we start to take responsibility for all aspects of the business, it shifts how we view it. So in other words, we have to first consider who we are in the context of our business. What are the values that we have? Is our business a reflection of us? Because it is. Ultimately, our whole life is a reflection of who we're being or who we're not being. So let's be intentional about it. So the first shift that I often see with real estate investors, small business owners, and is that they have to look at it and start to define themselves and take responsibility for how their business is. So that's a mindset shift, that you're not at the effect of what's happening. Some will say, well, it's the economy. I remember a story of a teacher that made the statement, "I'm a great teacher. I just have bad students." And, these are like, again, it's shifting to look in the mirror, say, what do I want my life to look like? What do I want my business to look like? And then taking responsibility for that, realizing that if you live into your values, you will in fact attract clients that also live into those values and they align with those particular values. So a lot of the times, Robert, is I'm having conversations with individuals about, okay, what are your core values? Who are you in the context of your life? What do you stand for? And be clear that, often we hear the conversation, it's just the way I am, rather than, okay, well, actually that's not true. You're choosing to be that way. You have the option to make different choices of how you show up, who you are, how you communicate with others, how you communicate with clients, how you communicate with staff. And so when you start to build business, I'm often having conversations with individuals about what is the culture that you want to create within your business, of your team, which then translates into how you show up for your clients. What is the environment that you're creating for your team to succeed? Hence, what is the environment you're creating for your clients to show up in? And so these are all little nuanced things that come back on the owner of the business, the CEO of your business, whatever that might be, and then actually having a clear plan or vision for what it is and then working backwards from it. Often when I'm having conversations with individuals is that I ask them, well, what's your vision? Give me a vision. And it often is about money. I want to make $1 billion or $2 million or whatever their number is. But there's not a lot of depth to,
Yeah.
okay, but let's talk about what your business stands for, what you stand for, what the experience that you're going to provide your clients and your staff. Those are different conversations. So that kind of, hopefully that gives you enough meat on the bone to kind of unpack a little bit, Robert.
Yeah, yeah. So start to look at the sales part of this. So when people say, "Yeah, we want to make more money," is there a technique or what? How do we move them to the place where it's the mental gymnastics or the mindset that we talk about really begins to shift how they view sales?
Well, I often within my own, so for example, I'll use my retail business as an example. So we're in the sporting goods industry. Specifically, we're into ice skating, high-end hockey, and figure skating. So most of our clients are very serious about what they do, right from minor hockey to old timers. They're still very serious about it, right through to NHL hockey players and even Olympic and world-class athletes. What I've trained my staff and what the kind of whole basis often of what we do when we train new staff is that first off, you have to understand, you think you're selling a pair of skates, for example, or you're
Mhm.
selling a stick. And that is the truth. But really what you're doing is you're providing and selling an experience. When they come in, they want to be heard. They're competitive by nature. So they want to know that you understand their competitiveness. You're going to support them in achieving their goals. So in that conversation, it's all about them. And we're entering the conversation, and this is so important.
Yeah.
We enter the conversation where they're at, not where you're at. And that means first seek to understand, then to be understood. We
Yeah.
can then enter the conversation where they're at and literally take them up into until you're actually speaking in the same conversation. Often what we do is we enter the conversation, we're technicians, we know the product, we know what we want to sell them. Number one, we're selling as opposed to attracting. Two different thought processes. We're entering the
Mhm.
conversation where they're at and then working with them to get them into the same conversation as opposed to downloading whatever factual features of whatever it is that we're selling. So it goes back to some of the fundamentals, which is sell benefits, solve a
Yeah.
problem, don't sell features. Enter the conversation where they're at, find out what is, and you through that conversation, by the way, Robert, you start to understand what they value
Yeah.
rather than what you want to sell. And it shifts how you communicate with your client.
Yeah. So as you're growing people in this area, I know when we think about mindset, we've heard all of the different gurus,
Sure.
affirmations, etc. Are
Mhm.
there ideas, are there exercises, practices that you share with your group that they can implement in the morning or whenever in order to really begin building or making that mindset even more rock solid?
So that's a great question. It's a little bit deep in scope or wide in scope, even. Of course, there's a lot to say about that. But I'm going to give you a couple of examples. So, my wife, Stephanie, who does the Mindset Matters podcast with me, her and I have been together over 30 years.
Mm.
And we've worked with athletes, both amateur and professional athletes, competitive athletes, but we've also worked with a lot of small business owners. And by the way, the Real Estate Investment Network, we teach, part of what we coach within the Real Estate Investment Network is that we treat our real estate investing like a business. Well, that shifts the conversation, how we view the world. Because what ultimately happens when we're working with individuals, Robert, is that we're really having them decide who they are being in the context of their life. We've all heard the memes and seen and read the quotes. It's not the goal, it's who you need to become to achieve the goal. Well, that's an interesting conversation because a lot of people don't think about it. So, who you are today, when you look at a vision that you have or a goal that you have, isn't going to achieve the goal. You have to grow, you have to evolve, you have to become the person that you need to become to achieve that outcome. It doesn't like when I get there, I'm going to be different. No, you
Mhm.
actually have to intentionally say, who do I have to be to achieve that goal? So a lot of the work we do is helping people, number one, understand what their core values are. Number two, understand that their identity and how they show up and who they're being is a choice. It's not
Right.
just the way I am. And so I'll give you a couple of kind of examples. And one of the kind of, I'll say, fork in the road moments for myself would be that, many years ago when I met Stephanie, I certainly married up. She was far more evolved than me. And I often joke that I was her favorite Neanderthal when she first met me. But the thing is that she was very dynamic in her thought process. And I was kind of known to be curt and abrupt, very forthright, and didn't have a lot of empathy, didn't have a lot of compassion. I was just that way. And she would occasionally say to me, she'd go, "Why would you say it that way? Why do you do that? Why are you doing that? Like, why do you react that way?" And my answer would be, "It's just the way I am." One day, I made that statement. I go, "It's just the way I am," because she was calling me out on something, the way she does it. And she goes, "You realize it's a choice, right?"
Wow.
And I went, "What?" Like, it had never occurred to me. And in that moment, it went, holy cow. It was a light bulb moment for me. Now, I've spent my life really on the journey of trying and working to be the best version of myself. And that's a daily thing, because I believe that we can always be the best version of ourselves every day. Now, I'll give you the next example. So I turned 66 years old. And back when I was 65, I looked at it and I said, who do I want to be when I'm 70? I look at that vision, Robert, and I go, okay. So I happen to choose a couple of people that I admire. And I go, what do I admire about those individuals? And I decided what I admired about those individuals, and I'm going to be that. I'm going to work towards that. And I'm going to give you an example, and that is that one of the individuals that I admire is Bobby Kenny, Robert RFK Jr., right? So he's now throwing his hat in with the ring, and politics aside, I don't need to go there. But I looked at him and I went, what an articulate, well-spoken, really fit, at the time, 68-year-old or 69-year-old. And I went, I love those qualities. I love how he shows up. I love how grounded he is, how he does his research, how he is just one of those guys and I share common values with him based on what I know. I've never met the man, by the way. I politics aside, I just admire him for who he is and how he shows up. So I started on my own journey, getting fit, looking how and being very conscious about how I communicate. And I look at who I want to be at 70 years old, and I would want to adopt those characteristics. That's a journey that's going to take time and awareness and work and reading, and all of those things to really step into those qualities. And that's what I've done.
Yeah. Man, I wasn't going to ask this. We weren't even planning on going here, but you brought this up and I want to dig in just a little bit. You're talking about your age. And I know that a lot of people, they hit 48, 49, 50, 51, and they begin to struggle with, oh my gosh, it's too late. I've passed through the majority of my life. What the heck do I do now? The success that I wanted to have, I don't have time to have it. How do you coach people? I mean, I know that there are real estate agents. I know that there are small business owners. I know there are people in 9-to-5 corporate jobs who are still not doing what they want to do. And they're in their early 50s, and they're kind of thinking, my God, I'm on the downside of the hill. What do I do with myself? How do you coach those people? What do you say to them?
Well, I can really speak to it from experience. First and foremost, I joke that I'm on the Freedom 95 program because ultimately, for me, I don't ever see myself not working. I know myself. I love to be active. I love working. We live on 5 beautiful acres in the Fraser Valley of British Columbia. I got 2 Bernese Mountain Dogs and a big property, and I do a lot of the work myself because there's a physicality that really lights me up. But also, I'm really clear on my purpose. My tagline for me is be your greatest self, live your best life by design. And I live that. I try and live that every day. I'm focused on that, but it's also what I'm suggesting and supporting clients in achieving. Now, mindset goes back to, well, again, if you don't have a vision, if you're buying into some narrative, is it your narrative or is it somebody else's narrative? Is it your values, or are you living the values of parents that you don't necessarily agree with? Are you living the values of a peer group that you don't align with. That becomes a conversation of integrity. My point around all of this, Robert, is what we just kind of discussed, is that it's a decision. What do you want your life to be? I just got back, I'll give you an example. We were in Hawaii just recently, well, June, we'll call it end of June. And we were at a wedding, and I mean, it was fantastic and it was great. We were at the Four Seasons. We were like, it was just awesome time away. But by day 10, I'm going, sweetheart, I gotta get the hell out of here. Like, the pool's great, the hotel's awesome, the food is fantastic, the beach is great, and I'm working out, doing all the things I love to do. But I'm going, where am I being a contribution outside of myself? That's
Right.
what lights me up. So again, is it mindset, or is it just the mindset of understanding yourself, of self-reflection, of intentionality, of reflection on how you're thinking? And so as much as there's many gurus out there and all, I don't care who it is, they all have the same conversation, but it's up to us to actually implement those things. And here's the fundamental around breakdown of people that I've noticed. First and foremost is that when I push entrepreneurs, I go, what's the issue? And they go, I just really got a lot of fear. I go, really? Okay, great. So what are you afraid of? And they go, well, my biggest fear is the fear of failure. And quite frankly, I call bullshit every time. I go, that's not true. They look at me like, you don't know what you're talking about. I just told you that I've got fear of failure. And I go, no, you don't, because very few failures are catastrophic. Very few. Number one. Number two, you got to go lower, or like go down deeper into that conversation and go, what do you really fear? And here's the truth. I'll say for 99% of the people that I work with, their fear is not of failure. Their fear is of the judgment of their peers, of their family, of their friends for not achieving the outcome that they set out to achieve. And that's what they fear. So they have this story about people, what people will say about them, what they'll think about them, whatever other thing they got going on. But it's not fear of failure. It's the fear of the judgment of others. And that's what shuts people down. And you talk about realtors. I've worked a lot with realtors. And there's in my world, there's a couple of different types of realtors. There's commercial versus residential, but I break it down as that there's investor focused realtors, and then there's those realtors that focus on buying and selling homes. Two different worlds in my opinion, and I have lots of reasons to believe that. My point is that realtors today, the most successful are those that are willing to get uncomfortable, to be out there, to show themselves. But many, I was supporting a friend of mine who owns a very large brokerage, and he was trying to get his realtors to be in front of a camera, to actually share posts. And they were uncomfortable. They didn't want to get in front of the camera. They were afraid of embarrassing themselves. They weren't good at it. And it's like, okay, you get good at it by doing it. And you're not going to be good at it. You don't get good at anything until you go through the learning curve. And yeah, it's uncomfortable, but that's the discomfort that you have to step into, lean into, bust through it, work at it, and you will in fact get better. So there's a lot in what I just said, and hopefully there's some messages there.
Oh yeah, it was beautiful. I mean, let's land here, because what you just talked about leans into something that in your bio is one of your guiding principles, where you talked about confidence is not, what is it? Oh. Confidence is borrowed. It's, you say it. It's confidence and owned. Or you tell me what it is.
Well, yeah, my phrase is that confidence is rarely owned. It's almost always borrowed. I borrow my confidence all the time. Number one, on past experience, but I borrow a lot of my confidence in times of my own uncertainty, which I have lots of, from my wife, from my team. And so that is what gives me the confidence to keep taking that next step forward.
I love it. I love it. I love it. So tell us a little bit about where we can find you. Where do you hang out mainly, and how people, if they're interested in learning more about Patrick Francey or working with Patrick Francey, where can they go?
most of what I do is I'm available on the everydaymillionaire.ca in my website, but I have an email that I leave open for everybody, which is ceo@reincanada.com, ceo@reincanada.com. I answer all my emails, but I also, Facebook, the Everyday Millionaire Facebook, or Instagram. I'm on Instagram personally, P Francey, so PFRANCEY. You can track me down. LinkedIn, and lots of people DM me and contact me through that. It's probably the best way to get a hold of me. And I look forward to having conversations with anybody that's interested in doing some body of work.
Fantastic. Well, listen, everybody, this episode was phantasmical. Having a great skill set is aspirational, and you must always be striving to grow and get better every day. It's not about that's just who I am. We can choose. We can choose. Being extremely skilled gets you noticed and people will want to be around you. But when you can combine great skill set with unstoppable mindset, the world is yours to transform. So if we're thinking about order of operations, a great mindset will always outperform a great skill set, and for longer when the great skill set has a low mindset. You get what I'm saying? So
Well said,
work on
Robert.
work on your internal messaging early and often, because it helps you to navigate the downs while maximizing the ups. This has been a great show. Come join us for the next episode. We do these live, but you can also grab the replays on YouTube and LinkedIn, and of course, Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Remember to text podcast to 240-557-8679 so that you know when we're going live next. Until the next time, be stellar, storyteller.
To the beat where the deals are made. Arcade threes, Mike and sharp as a blade. Pros and biz, come take a ride.